Good morning, friends. Patrick here, just with another live update and a chance to be together for a moment virtually in this time of pandemic. You may hear my son Finley in the background, and that's just part of life, isn't it? I think about the sounds that he makes, and they're reminders of me that even in the midst of struggle and hard times, there are signs of new life around us, things for which we should be giving thanks to God and with grateful hearts. And so today, I wanted to take a minute because I was drinking my coffee this morning, and over the years, I've collected a number of different mugs that have various meanings to me. Of course, I'm not the person that started doing this. A lot of people do this, and they have wonderful mugs. But this morning, I happened to pick up a mug off of my shelf that I bought last year, actually, end of last year, and it has a drawing of Henry Nouwen on it. Now, if you don't know who Henry Nouwen is, he was, I would call him a saint of our church, just the universal church. He was a theologian. He was a professor for a time at both Notre Dame and Harvard Divinity School, and he taught much and wrote much. Some of, in my opinion, the most accessible writings on Jesus and Christian spirituality that there are. And in his life, Henry Nouwen struggled a lot with depression and gaining a sense of what his life was really about and what mattered and what held significance as far as who he was as a child of God. Later in his career, he left the academy in order to go and spend his life and his days in the L'Arche community in Toronto, Canada. And L'Arche communities were developed in the 60s by a man named Jean Vanier, and they were intentional Christian communities for adults with developmental disabilities. And so Nouwen writes fondly of this transition in his life of moving into a house with developmentally challenged adults in which none of his accolades, none of his accomplishments or his knowledge of things mattered anymore. None of those things could stand in the way and become barriers by which someone could only go so far in knowing who he was. To those residents of the house, he was just Henry. And who he was most fully and most definitely was that he was a beloved child of God. Now, Nouwen was in his 50s or 60s when he made this move, I think in his 50s. And so he was in midlife, and only then, for the first time, after having written gobs of books and wonderful things that are still so beloved today about Christian spirituality and about Jesus, only then was he coming to terms with the fact that he could be loved because of who he was, not because of what he did. That's a lesson for all of us to learn, and I just share that transition with you to give you a sense of who our brother Henry Nouwen was. He said many wonderful things, many of them having to do with who we are and the lies we believe about ourselves until we come face to face with the living God in Jesus Christ. But on the other side of this mug is this wonderful quote that I love from him. And I think in these days of pandemic, we find ourselves asking a lot of questions. When will this end? When will church buildings reopen again? When will things feel normal? Why is this happening? When will I be able to get a haircut again? How can we manage life moving forward? Many questions trouble us. We think about how do I count time now that every day seems to be nothing but newsreels about this virus and the losses that we've incurred. Why is it always about politics? And those are all fair questions, and I think they're questions that we can ask and that our Christian faith gives us wisdom to answer them with. perhaps not arriving at a definitive answer, but giving us a way to think faithfully about how we might live in response to those kinds of questions. But on the back of this mug, Nouwen gives us this quote. Did I offer peace today? Did I bring a smile to someone's face? Did I say words of healing? Did I let go? I realize you can't read this. Did I let go of my anger and resentment? Did I forgive? Did I love? These are the real questions, Nouwen says. Did I offer peace today? Did I bring a smile to someone's face? Did I speak words of healings? Did I let go of my anger and resentment? Did I forgive? Did I love? These are the real questions. And I think these are the questions that today I would challenge you to ask of yourself. I think we find ourselves now more than ever needing to do battery checks every day and ask that all-important question, how much can I give today? Because the truth is, some days we feel very empowered and very motivated to do things, even in this time of pandemic. And there are other days where we feel remarkably powerless and unable to change anything. Maybe unable even to get out of bed and do much worthwhile. And that's okay if that's where you are. And the questions, I think, that help us to do that battery check and to help us find out how much it is that we can give are questions like the ones Nouwen asks, and not questions like how long will this last? When will church reopen? Because none of those things are necessarily, while they need answering at some point down the line in the future, they're not questions that we can answer right now. And so perhaps they are burdening us further with needless anxieties. Instead, there are better questions that we can ask. And I think that's what Nouwen wants us to walk away with this quote. Did I love today? Did I forgive? Did I let go of anger and resentments that I was carrying? Did something that I do bring inspiration and encouragement? Did it bring a smile to someone's face? And not just a passing grin, but did something I do spark real joy in someone's life? Did I offer peace? Did I speak into someone's life where there was anxiety and despair and help them to recenter themselves in the love of God? These are the good questions to ask in a time like this. In his letter to the Philippians, Paul writes this. He says, and you've probably heard this, rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I say rejoice. Let your gentleness show in your treatment of all people, for the Lord is near. Don't be anxious about anything, but rather bring up all of your requests to God through prayer and through petitioning God, along with giving thanks. And the peace of God that exceeds all understanding will keep your hearts and minds safe in Christ Jesus. From now on, brothers and sisters, if anything is excellent and if anything is admirable, focus your thoughts on these things. All that is true, all that is holy, all that is just, all that is pure, all that is lovely, and all that is worthy of praise. Practice these things. Practice these things. Whatever you learned, received, or heard, or saw in us, the God of peace will be with you. Paul loves the church in Philippi, perhaps more than the other churches that he writes to in the New Testament. He has a special relationship with them. And so towards the end of his letter here, he's imploring them to, in the midst of difficulty and of conflict and of uncertainty, to cling to the things that are good. Ask the good questions. Ask, how am I being a disciple, an active and loving disciple of Jesus Christ? If anything is pure and good and brings joy and helps us to serve our neighbors, do those things. Hold on to those things. Let go of those things that lie beyond our control, because that's the only way that we're going to live out the gospel Of course, we're finding ourselves right now in a time when church looks really different, and it's going to continue to look different for a while. And that's okay. And I think that God is in the midst of that, and that it's a good and can be a wonderful and beautiful thing. And so, friends, I would implore you today that when you wake up in the morning, when you go to bed at night, when you're doing that battery check, taking that spiritual inventory, ask the good questions, the real questions, as Nouwen calls them. Did I bring a smile to someone's face today, a genuine sense of joy? Did I offer words of healing? Did I bring peace? Did I put myself in a position where I'm able to let go of my anger and resentment and the things that I can neither control nor answer in my own power? Did I love well? Did I forgive? These are the real questions. These are the things that help us to stay fixated, as we should always be, on Jesus, following his lead and going where he goes. I hope that even on this dreary day, you find time to enter into that space of prayer and of petitioning God to show us the way that we can continue to ask the good, the real, the true questions of our time that draw us more deeply into our baptismal identity. Friends, you are beloved children of God, and I miss you. And I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you again tomorrow.